David, Jimmy Butler got ejected last night, and I'm always annoyed when referees decide they take out a star. People paid this money. He's the star of the team. They eject him. He was very aggressive with the referee. Usually it's 2 technicals. They gave him back-to-back. I thought, actually, that it was aggressive enough to warrant an ejection because he got right in the referee's face, but also he was walking away when he got the second ejection. When he got the second technical foul. So what's the worst experience you've had with an official?
When the calls are wrong, mostly the home plate. Once Scott Cousins, it's funny, I've thought about this recently. Do you remember the name Scott Cousins?
Yeah.
He was a former player for the Marlins who collided with Buster Posey. And that was the beginning of the catcher interference rule where you couldn't run into a catcher. Do you remember that game? It was a late game in San Francisco. And Scott Cousins had like death threats. The nicest guy in the world. He really wasn't an okay guy. And it ruined his career, although not being good really had a bigger thing to do with him not making it. But the rules changed. So the catcher had to be in a certain place. We're in Marlins Park, and I'm sitting next to the dugout, and there's a play to end a game where we are trying to score a tying run, and I thought the catcher interfered. By interfering, all I'm saying is he was in the way, which shouldn't be an issue. And they called our guy out, and I actually went to the umpire's room, Dan, and you're not supposed to do that after a game. I was so incensed that I went to the umpire's room and asked for very loudly what happened there and how we did not get the benefit of this new rule. And I was sensitive to it because we're the ones who caused the new rule. So I felt we were being singled out. So I called Joe Torre about it. I tried to get an appeal. I tried to protest the game, and I was basically shooed out of the room. And anyway, it didn't work. Let me tell you about last night, though, because you said something that just isn't right. You don't pay money. No one pays money to see Jimmy Butler.
No one pays money to see Jimmy Butler ejected is what I meant.
But no one pays money to see a specific player.
Right.
That's not how it works. With load management, you don't know who's going to play from 1 minute to the next, from one game to the next. Owners now are very careful, and leagues are super careful to make it very clear that there is no guarantee of any player ever playing. So if you want to buy a ticket because of the front of the jersey, not the back.
I buy it to see the back of the jersey that says Martin. That dude is a baller.
Playing good.
Baller. David, I want to ask you about the Bruce Arians incident that happened over the weekend. He has been fined $50,000 by the NFL. It's going to be hard for him to appeal because there isn't a coaches union. Where do you stand on the NFL actually levying this fine and the act itself?
For the audience, so they know, one of his players was on the field. He ran out on the field and hit him in the helmet.
Well, for the audience, I'd like you to listen to the lead of Nothing Personal today, where the word of the day was knock, because Bruce Arians said he knocked him. I watched the video. It was sort of a slap and tickle at best, and he already is appealing the $50,000 fine, and this is all because of Urban Oscar Meyer. Urban Meyer kicks a player during practice. The NFL says that we can't allow that. We are not hockey. They pulled a Sam Weish. This is not Cleveland. Do you remember that? Am I the only one?
God, that's 1989 Bengals coach Sam Weish.
Yeah.
Hold
Hate
on.
that guy
Weish. Yeah.
All right,
Do you remember this when he took
Weish.
the PR?
No.
Didn't I say Weish?
It's Weish.
CH thing you did.
He took the PA, right? Do you remember this during the game when people were throwing things? And he said, "Stop doing that. This is not Cleveland." Am I the only one who's remembering this?
No, everybody
knows what you're talking about,
He
David.
grabbed a microphone, he spoke to the crowd, and he got roars because he told the crowd that they were not in Cleveland. We've covered it. It's 30, 40 years ago. Knock it off.
Stop yelling at us.
Okay. I really wasn't yelling. I was trying to draw a comparison to all of the things that happened during the course of a game that are funny. What Bruce Arians did was trying to get his player off the field. We've had managers tug at players' jerseys to get out of a fracas. You see it in the NBA all the time. Jeff Van Gundy, for Christ's sake, grabbed Alonzo Mourning's kneecap, right? So this is not exactly something that should be finable. But Urban Meyer kicks a player. The National Hockey League has a complete scandal where kids are being abused, where players at the major level, the Blackhawks, are being sexually assaulted. So the entire environment has changed so much that the NFL had to make an example of Bruce Arians, saying we will not treat our players with any sort of physical harm, damage. Here's $50K. Arians did appeal, and wait to see. That appeal is going to work. That $50,000 will not stand. It's going to be reduced because Roger Goodell made his point, but that was not a $50,000 slap.
Oh, but I would say you can't be touching the players, David. Like you can't
touch them every day. Now, when we say touch, let's use the right verb. We don't mean touch like the University of Michigan or Nassar. There is contact that a manager and a coach has with his players, putting them in the right place.
No, but
right
David, that's not what that was. He angrily hit him in the head, and only because he's a feeble 69-year-old man and the guy was wearing a helmet. Like, I'm not overstating the fact that he punched him with great ferocity, but don't put your hands on the players.
I couldn't disagree with you more. We cannot legislate against coaching that involves some sort of...
David, that was not coaching. That was not coaching, David. Don't tell me that what Bruce Arians did...
In Bruce Arians' mind, and he thinks it's coaching.
No,
I'm with you. I agree with you. But
coaching,
Arians thinks he's
Get
coaching.
Get out of here.
He thinks it is.
Okay, but I don't care what he thinks.
Right.
That's not... the only thing that you should care about. Intent.
What Bruce Arians thinks, you think intent matters in the case of manslaughter? Just makes it the difference between murder and manslaughter.
My mistake, Dan. I forgot we're talking about manslaughter versus murder.
Don't touch the players, David. It's not that hard to understand. They're adults. You've got a position of power over them. They can't do anything about it. If he hits you back or pushes you down, he's got a problem on his hands. Don't touch the players. Like, you can coach them. Don't do it angrily. How about that?
I'm sorry,
Don't do it angrily.
You're right. We're dealing into something that may have something to do with somebody's past, and we're digging deep into psychological territory here. But your reaction to this is so emotional and personal that there's got to be something
because you're an executive in charge, and it bothers me that you guys think it's okay to manhandle the employees. It bothers me.
Oh, that's what Bruce did. You're right. I'm wrong. He manhandled them. You're right.
David.
That's what that was.
He hit him.
I may have seen the wrong video.
David,
I must have seen the wrong video.
He hit him in the back of the head, David.
Hit him. You stop using, especially on a show that's audio, you're using verbs that people will associate with something that is not actually real. He didn't manhandle. He didn't hit. He didn't abuse. There is serious things that go on with players and with kids. Let's not for a minute say that what Bruce Arians did goes to that level.
So what's going to happen if a player decides, hey, I'm going to defend myself here and hit back?
I'm going to just push the man with a bad Achilles down. I'm just going to push him down.
You think that what Bruce Arians did with his ruptured Achilles and his man sack is enough that his player was so angry with him that he's going to turn around like what Mariano Rivera did to Don Zimmer? Is that what you're thinking is going to happen?
But what if he did? That's the question.
Then he would get suspended, and I'd probably throw him off the team.
Yeah, that's unbelievable.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard are you allowed to hit a player?
Like a love tap?
Yeah, what is 10?
I'm just asking. It seems like there's some degree of violence that is tolerable and then intolerable.
You flick them on the ear. That's what you do.
Intolerable.
Intolerable.
It's a tough one.
You can't say it's all
tolerated.
intolerable. I agree with you. There is
I'm just
a scale.
on a scale. So, like, is it 5 okay? Is it 4 okay?
It's one of those things where it's when you see it, you know it. As an executive, when you see a coach doing something that is overly physical, you know it. What Arians did was not
David, we
that.
disagree. You don't get to describe pornography to me. You don't get to decide that I know it. What I saw was unacceptable to me and deserves a fine.
If you see it, you know it. That's what's in the CBA then? Is that how this works?
There's nothing in the CBA about coaches and fines that can be levied toward a coach.
I thought he struck him. And I thought it crossed the line. You say when you see it, you know it. And I thought that was one of the moments I was like, oh, my God, this is bad. This is a very bad look, and it certainly deserved a fine. We can get down to how much of a fine, but I think your point about Urban Meyer is right. The league is trying to make sure that this doesn't happen. It is an awful look for a 68-year-old white man to be striking one of his players just because he doesn't like what the player is doing on the field.
Are you now bringing race into this?
Oh, you don't think that plays a factor?
You think that he only struck the player because he's white and the player was black?
No, but I'm saying optics matter here.
I don't believe the fine had anything to do with race.
What if it was Brady or Gronk?
What are you talking
Who
about?
got slapped by Arians?
What are you
I'm just
talking
wondering.
about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, though? Like,
Well, different.
Protect that precious
playing the
dome.
what-if
That's
game,
a
Dan.
15-yard
if
penalty.
Brady got hit in the head by that, Arians would be excommunicated from the league, immediately fired and thrown in a prison somewhere.
No, not if what he did exactly to this player is what he did to Brady. You keep using the word hit. It was not a hit. He didn't punch him. He didn't cold cock him.
Then what was it? How do you describe it then?
It was it's like a slap. It was a slap on a helmet that the player probably didn't even feel, by the way.
So a slap is not a hit according to you.
A slap is not. Hold on. We're not talking about domestic violence here. I will not let you frame this and edit it and cut it in a way that I am somehow
David, no
pro-abuse.
one's trying to trap you, but you did say that Arians is allowed to do that, and if you do it back, you'd immediately fire the person. That's the imbalance we're talking about that can't be.
Well, that's the imbalance that is.
There is a literal term called slap hitter in Major League Baseball. Come on now.
Well, that actually plays to
That
his.
actually is his point and his advantage.
We have been trying to
Is
get
that-
him though.
Yeah.
I laid a race trap. You laid a domestic
Thank
abuse
you.
trap. Like he's
Slippery
wiggling off
one,
of
man.
his
What a
hook
number
right
on
now.
a scale.
Yeah, just give
So
us a
a
number.
slap's
What was
I
like
still
that?
want to
It's a
understand
slippery
the
one.
scale,
What was that?
Jessica. Please, I'm curious about this because I know whatever I say, Stugotz is going to say, "Oh, that's not the right scale. You can't look at it that way." So, is 10 when someone's unconscious, and 1 is when you don't feel it?
Sure, we'll go with that. So if it was a 10, you would have Bruce Arians, the fine would have been justified. But if it's a 1,
Hold on. If he rendered a player unconscious, a fine would not be
That's
sufficient.
playing
He'd
the
be
result.
fired.
You're playing the result.
Oh, what about intent? What if he didn't mean to?
Okay.
how much
I'm
did
more
you not
than
mean to,
happy.
though, on a scale of 1 to 10?
You're not going to catch me on this because you know I'm a consequentialist in my life. But when you are a coach, the consequence of this slap was nothing. There was no bruising. There was no injury. There was no concussion. There was nothing. The player barely felt it. This was a straight 1, maybe a 1.1. If you're going to say a 1 is when you tap someone on the shoulder to say, "Excuse me, may I talk to you? Can you hear me?"
Oh, come on, David. That's not what he was angry.
What's a Mendoza line for you? What deserves punishment from the league on your scale from 1 to 10?
A 5.
Wrong. It's a 1. Moving on.
I wanted
All of a sudden, you're the arbiter.
Don't put your hands on players.
Of scale.
Don't put your hands on players. If you want to stop him from getting a penalty, put your hand on his chest and pull him away from a pile. Don't actually smack somebody over the helmet. Don't
What
do
if it's
that.
positive though? Like that a boy, you know?
It wasn't
Great
an
job.
attaboy.
But what if it was?
He tore his Achilles even
Okay,
more trying to
you
do
guys
it.
are making this blanket
Stugotz,
rule.
all right,
Never put your
Stugotz,
hands on
all
a
right,
player.
Stugotz, you're allowed to slap him on the ass.
Oh, good.
Unless they're
Don't touch my
women.
head.
Unless they're women.
Right.
So
It's
good.
good.
There
Don't
you
grab
go.
the
I
face
like that
mask.
part of the game when a guy does something good on the field and the coach, you know, he
You
comes
like
off.
that part of the game.
I like to see a coach acknowledge and give him a data boy.
You like
I
a
do.
good ass slap. Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Start
I really
slapping
do.
Stugotz in the head every time he has a good
Put it on the
show.
poll, please, at LeBatard Show. Did you know that Stugotz liked a good ass slapping?
I heard you, Mike.
I can't believe, Samson. I want to get back to the umpires room because it's one of the saddest places that I've ever been. But I can't believe that you don't understand that some of this stuff needs to change. Just because the power imbalance has been like this the entire time, the NFL does, for optics and other reasons, has to make sure that its authority figures are not aggressively putting their hands on the players in a way that I would not define as coaching, David, because grabbing a face mask, let's say he did that. Is that okay by you? Angrily grabbing a face mask of a player? Because that's not coaching either.
Yeah, it is. Does he twist the neck? Sometimes you're trying to make a point to a player during a game, and you get right up in his face.
David,
and
make
you
your
take
points better. Make your points better. Like you
No,
don't,
because I get it. My points are bad because
No,
you
not
disagree
you,
with
Bruce
them.
Arians.
That's your
No,
theory.
not you.
I'm Dan
Not
LeBatard. You don't
you,
agree with
David.
me. Your points suck.
No, Bruce
Give me a break.
Arians, not you. Bruce Arians needs to make his point
Oh, sorry.
without grabbing a
Cut that out.
face mask.
Nothing personal, Dave.
No, but with you guys, it always is. I appreciate what you're saying, but that's not how it actually happens in clubhouses or on sidelines or in dugouts.
Okay, so change it.
It doesn't need to be changed.
Okay, but that's where we disagree. If you'd ask the players, my guess is they would tell you that they think that they shouldn't be touched by their coaches.
But stop using that word. That word is a trigger word that you
I
are
did it as
using
soft
in order
as
to escalate this.
I did touched instead of hit. Touched is as soft as I can make it.
You know very well that touch has implications that are going on right now in Michigan.
Oh,
and
you're
everywhere
playing
else.
this game now.
I didn't
You're
say
playing this game.
fondle your players. I didn't say groom your players.
Well, are you putting that on the poll? Should I touch Stugotz when he does something good on the show? Are you going to put that on your poll?
Absent context, probably. Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
let's put it on the poll real quick. David, let's move because I don't think either of us are going to budge on this one. I want to talk to you about a situation that requires some nuance, quite like the Bruce Arians situation, which is what's going on with the LA Lakers. I mean, LeBron James reportedly, behind the scenes, is a proponent of trading Russell Westbrook when he was actively demanding that the Lakers target Russell Westbrook in the offseason.
DeRozan wanted to be there.
Vogel may get fired. It's a messy situation, and it's aging superstars. They tried to build this thing around LeBron and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is often injured. He had one healthy bubble. They won their title. So I guess this project, in the grand scheme of things, was a success, but it looks like it's about to crash and burn. Your take on it?
So it's not LeBron is trying to get someone to do something. LeBron is in charge. He's the one who put the team together, and now he's the one who's going to either decide to pull the team apart or fire the coach. After the game last night, there was a report. Imagine this, a report that the coach, Frank Vogel, is getting on the plane. Like, that was worthy of a report, that he is so day-to-day that when he gets on the team plane to go to a road game, it becomes news. You have a team that has no chance to do anything this year because LeBron got exactly what he wanted and the Lakers got exactly what they wanted by giving him the power. Another proof that just because you're the second GOAT in history, it doesn't mean that you're an executive. LeBron James doesn't know one thing about building a team. He doesn't know one thing about forming a team. He knows about what he wants to do when he's not on the court, who he wants to be around. I root for the Lakers to lose every game because when you give that kind of power to a player, you deserve everything you get. They're going to start over. They're going to have a new coach, but they're so down the road with LeBron, they're not going to take his power away, and the Lakers are done winning.
Wow, you think they're done?
I don't think they will not win another title with LeBron James.
Wow. Do you think LeBron would consider? I think he has a no-trade clause. In fact, I'm pretty sure he does. Do you think LeBron would entertain getting traded at this deadline?
There's no way, Mike.
Well, because
No way.
let me tell you, one of the fantasy bookings
Okay.
I've made in my mind is
Boy,
Yeah.
he's back in Miami.
no. This is
God.
the scenario. I think
That's
this is
the only scenario Mike has explored.
This is
that
the only
one.
scenario. Well, I think he would get traded to a contender. Like, if the New York Knicks were a contender, I think you would see a lot more conjecture on social media about LeBron getting traded at the deadline. But right now, like, the team like that's well positioned in the Eastern Conference, he's not going to go to Brooklyn. They don't have the room for him. Miami does make sense. If Miami were just simply in New York, people would be talking about this, I swear to you. And I'm just wondering if you'd think he'd even entertain it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that he wants to be traded, 1 being he doesn't want to be traded, I think LeBron is at a 1. And the reason I do is that I also think LeBron's care of on-court performance is going down a notch every single year, if not every single game. He has a business empire in LA. He's doing things off the court that are so much more important to him now that he's never going to take a trade to Miami, to New York, to anywhere. His kids are there. His life is there. His business is there. He's not going. Sorry, Mike.
I wish this were a multiverse because I guarantee you, if the New York Knicks were sitting atop the Eastern Conference,
Right.
first takes lower third would be
It'd be a discussion.
LeBron to
Yes.
Mecca. People would will this into existence. I'm telling you right now.
David, how about this one? LeBron back to Cleveland. The Cavs are very good. You put him on that team, perhaps he wins a second title for the city of Cleveland. How about that?
There is 0 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's still a 1.
I don't think
It's just
that's
not gonna
crazy.
happen.
I really
you.
don't.
Well, then chew on this scenario. Miami Heat have been playing very well with a lot of people out. Bam Adebayo and Duncan Robinson.
The
Those
only
contracts
scenario
work
they
out.
wanted.
LeBron
Yeah.
straight up.
Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo for LeBron James. The numbers work out. LeBron sees that he can chase another title, still be relevant come springtime.
He doesn't deserve this out. He doesn't deserve to be traded. He deserves to wallow in the team that he has created.
Who'd they lose
LeBron
to?
James.
They lost to the
They
Pacers
lost to
at
the
home
Pacers.
last night.
He had 30, 12, and 5, and they still lost
I
to the
think
Pacers.
he's got more 30-point games than anyone in the league. Like, it's a really poorly
He should.
constructed team.
Look, he constructed it.
He put it together.
It's his team.
Play the cards that you dealt.
You
How
want to
about
play
that?
Russell Westbrook instead of your 4 depth pieces? Enjoy this.
Who's going to trade for Westbrook?
He's terrible. He's been terrible for 3 years. Why does anyone
I
want
guarantee-
Westbrook?
I think he got an
to make it so the
MVP
Lakers
and
couldn't win.
he averaged a triple-double one of those seasons
He's
you're describing
terrible.
him as
Please,
terrible.
Westbrook. I mean, like the most. I don't understand. There's like a cult of Westbrook. There's a cult of. I don't. For the life of me, I don't understand why this guy has lost.
His
He's been
inefficiency makes you mad.
empty calories. No efficiency, the biggest waste of space on a basketball court. He thinks he is the greatest basketball player in the known universe. Keeps taking jumper after jumper.
He's right.
And he has rotted the Lakers. Rotted the Lakers after he rotted the Wizards, after he rotted the Houston Rockets. What are we doing,
Hold
Russell
on.
Westbrook?
I
Please.
love that
Holy
this is
shit.
here. Thank you, Whittingham, for unleashing it. I don't think it's fair what you've done with some of these verbs on rotting. I believe Russell Westbrook to be one of the finest athletes I've ever seen play sports. That is the celebration of
What?
Westbrook. He's an inefficient player, but athletically, he's more of an athlete than most of the people you've ever met in your life.
Back then, and he's
John Daly's a better athlete than Russell Westbrook.
Okay, that is
Whoa!
insane.
What?
What do you mean? He's won more.
What?
He had 2 majors. Yeah.
John Daly has had a far more successful career as a fat smoker
He
than
won
Russell
the
Westbrook has.
MVP of the league.
Triple-double award. Yeah.
I mean, look, he's an inefficient player. That's what's bothering Whittingham.
We've gotten away from my point, which is that if we're doing the NBA Combine, Russell Westbrook would crush it. But in terms of helping basketball teams win, he has not done so in 6 years.
Yeah. You want to put DK Metcalf on the Lakers, Dan?
If you are Jeannie Buss, you are not letting LeBron James make any more decisions. The problem is
Well-
they already told him he could.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah,
it. They're done.
That ship has sailed. LeBron James
Yes, it
runs
has.
that team, and he is looking at the results. I am so mad that he got rewarded twice after leaving Miami, because the way that he has run teams, because he's run every team that he's been on since leaving Miami, is terrible. He is so bad at this, and yet through the sheer force of will of his basketball talent has won 2 championships. In my opinion, shouldn't have won the first one. The Warriors were obviously better. The second one was in a bubble, but I'm not going to discredit that. But like LeBron James is so bad at running teams, and David, like as someone who like cares about the front office perspective, like players doing this has pretty clearly shown to be pretty disastrous.
It's such an easy equation. That's why it makes it so easy when players come up to you and say, oh, we got to trade for this guy. We got to get this guy. We need some pitching. We need more offense. You just say, oh, you know what? Just do your job. Let us worry about putting a team together. But for whatever reason, basketball has player empowerment in a way that none of the other sports do. The players in basketball are far more empowered, ironically.
It's
than
not
in
for
any other
some
sport.
reason. The league got big promoting and making stars. They're not as disposable as they are in football. It's very purposeful, and it got great success because it created people that we
They're more singularly
that
responsible
we
for
cared
winning
about.
than any other
and
sport.
David's perspective is so interesting to me because general managers and presidents, now I'm not saying this has worked because, well, I mean, they did win a championship, but it's a bad team that he put together. But David's perspective of we know what we're doing, don't tell us what to do. But then also, if the athlete tells him, hey, I know what I'm doing, don't tell me what to do, David doesn't accept that. And I just think that you're protecting the power there. I get to pick the team, not you. And LeBron James is like, bleep both of you. I'm so good I won championships even though I don't know how to build teams.
I will use players' input as confirmation bias, and that's it. So I will try to get them to agree with moves that I know we want to make just so they can think it was their idea. But take a look at the entertainment industry that LeBron is now dipping his toes into. He understands that as actors, so they all want to be producers. They all want to get the credit. I'm a producer. I'm in the producers union. when the reality is that the actual decisions being made, unless you are going to finance your own project, it's being run by the people who give the money. That's the reality of Hollywood. When you are financing, you get a say. You get a stay in casting.
Yeah, but this is a little different, though, David, because he's also responsible for the economies of these franchises when he arrives. So you say if you're the one giving out the money, but what about if you're the oil well that's earning it?
I'm not sure I agree. So the Lakers' asset valuation is based on LeBron James being a Laker?
I'm saying that wherever he's gone, he's increased the economy around franchise value and economy around the places, like neighborhoods. He is an economy that makes more money than anyone probably in sports.
But that money's not going to the organization. The money he's making the neighborhood around the team,
but
where
it's
the
part
team
of his
plays.
value to an organization.
I understand
and
that.
to a city
Right.
and to a region. Like you're saying to me, the person that's writing the checks, and I'm telling you, but what about the one who's responsible for so much of the resources? Because LeBron James has been underpaid the last 15 years, David. Last 20.
Again, I'm not following what your theory is.
David, the amount of money that he makes for the franchise just in increasing its franchise value by keeping the Lakers the kind of relevant that they are now. You're disputing that LeBron James, when he goes to Cleveland, that all of a sudden Dan Gilbert's franchise goes from whatever it was worth to worth a hell of a lot more than that because LeBron James is there.
I'm disputing the fact that the Cavaliers are worth less now that he's gone than they were when he was there. Because under your theory, when he left Cleveland, that means the franchise value would go down then.
He fixed the house, David. He fixed the entire house. It did, like sales, ticket sales, and all that stuff did go down. But what he did is he made it so that the real estate can't go down because franchise values generally don't. So he increased it. He put Cleveland in the top class of basketball economies. They have no business being there. Zero.
When you've got people who work for you and they add value to your show, do you pay them according to their value to the show?
No.
So it's very confusing what you're saying now because, Dan, don't forget.
No, but I do,
that
though.
You are now an owner, too.
But I do, though, David. Stugotz is paid according to how valuable he is. Stugotz doesn't have complaints. Stugotz doesn't have complaints about us not measuring his value correctly.
David, you can't argue that LeBron
Well, that you
James.
know of.
You can't argue that LeBron James does not have a transformational effect on organizations that he's a part of. Right, whether it's cultural relevance, whether it's relevance in a city, whether it's ticket sales, whether it's how your team sells away from home,
I don't
local
think
television
he's not
ratings.
objecting to that. I think he's objecting to the idea that guy then gets to put the team together.
David is arguing that LeBron James does not have an added value in terms of
I'm not.
in terms of economics to a team.
No, I'm not. What I'm arguing is that the juice is not worth the squeeze, that the increase in asset valuation I get is greater by winning a championship than by having LeBron James. If I can do both, that's outstanding. But if you give me a team full of players that no one's heard of, but I win a World Series, the bump I get in revenue and asset valuation is far greater than signing Giancarlo Stanton and not winning 81 games.
But Dave, like in terms of like how LeBron adds to your ability to win championships, like that is a one-to-one relationship in the past. Like up until I would say probably until right now, at 37 years old, year 19, that it's starting to kind of cross that Rubicon where maybe he's not providing that. But you give him power to run an organization because for a very long time he has been worth that. Like he has been worth the headache of you build your team around him, you build your economy around him, and you win championships. And you kind of deal with the after effects of you have no draft picks at the end of it, and you have a bunch of 37-year-old players.
He has been very worthy to the teams he has played on. None of that means that he should have, by definition, a right to have any say over personnel. He has been a value-added player. There's no question. The second best player of all time, no question. That has nothing to do with dictating who's going to play on the team with him. That's never been a player's role, and it never should be a player's role because they don't know how to do it while they're being a player because they do it with emotion. He basically admitted that it's now time to bring in you, Carmelo, because I want to hang with you. He said, I want to be around people I like to be around with.
And what?
That's not how you win.
Okay, but and what? It is how he's won.
When?
We're in Miami.
Okay, so listen. Do you think LeBron James was the best player in the world at that time? And he had players with him who were also amongst the best in the world.
But they were his friends.
He wasn't
They're
combining over-the-hill bad players. Wade, Bosch, and LeBron, those weren't schleppers.
They had Big Z. Like, they had Stugotz.
They didn't win with Stugotz.
I think Dave's making a compelling argument, which is that LeBron James just needs to pick better friends. Friends who are better at basketball.
Younger better friends. He's got to become friends with John Morant.
But the thing
No, he
is,
chose Anthony Davis. He's always hurt,
but the Lakers wanted him to be friends with Buddy Hield over the offseason, which would have fit that team a little bit better than Russell Westbrook. I think we'd all agree. And he was like, no, I want to be friends with my friend Russell Westbrook.
I think that's the most important point, is that when you give a player that sort of power, you're hoping that they've got the same evaluation skills as an executive, and players simply don't. And when LeBron was younger, he could cover that up more, but he also had different friends. They were all younger. His friends have always been Carmelo Anthony, but now Anthony is old, LeBron is old, so it's not a winning formula. But the more power he has, the older he is, has cost the team more in terms of losing, and there's nothing they can do about it. I think the bottom line is, if you don't give a player power, it's always better.
Not Jeff Conine, not Andre Dawson, but a player for the Marlins who was active, who most had your ear. Not saying that you actually respected.
Had to be Conine.
Or believed much. Well, Conine.
Niner. Mr. Marlin, Dan.
I don't know who it is. Let's find out from David.
Yeah, Conine never got involved in player personnel. He actually didn't care who his teammates were. He just would go out and play. So that wasn't an issue. I had Tom Kohler was a pain in my neck in a lovely way, and I still am in touch with him. But very, very annoying about who we should have and who we should not. Very big opinions. Giancarlo was very involved in who we should get and who we should not.
Hold on a second.
The big salad.
Go ahead, David. He missed his window. He's a little groggy.
Well, no, I mean, David did stop talking. I mean, take a breath.
Your fault, David. Take a breath.
Who's the big salad?
Tom Kohler.
Tom Kohler.
Why is he known as the big salad?
I mean, I don't know.
The hair.
Loves ass play. I don't know.
And that's not worse than slapping a player.
That's only a 3 on the scale, David.
Bruce Arians?
Saying tossing a salad because he likes ass play is a 3 on the scale, and slapping a player is an 8. Okay.
That'd be third base.
You were saying Giancarlo Stanton.
It's the same thing, right? The better a player is, the more money they make, they get emboldened. And making money as a player doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have evaluation skills. And baseball is very different than basketball. When you are bringing in a player, they all want to be around their friends because they're together every day, all day. And bringing in one extra player is not going to be a big deal. There's many times that we have brought in on a minor league deal somebody who we know has a relationship with a player, or we'll keep a brother. Like Vladimir Guerrero's brother was only with us because he was Vladimir's brother, and Vladimir, through his translator, said, I want my brother on the team. It's no problem to do stuff like that on a baseball team, but on a basketball team, it's hard to hide people.
Can you tell us, David, because I'd like to hear the change from you. Stanton signs the contract, and now what changes? He's in your ear telling you we got to get so-and-so?
Before he even signs, he talks about what he wants and the type of relationship he wants with the front office. And once he signs the deal, we know we're married to him, and we have to have a working relationship with him because we want him happy. But remember, we were coming at it from a point of major losing, terrible PR, always trading the players and losing players because of money, fighting and lawsuits and all the issues that we were looking for anything to be positive. So we needed Giancarlo to always be on our side, because after 2012, when he went public against the trade, we had to rehabilitate the relationship with him somehow, and we did it by giving him all that money and then listening to him when he wanted certain things done or not done. And none of that was positive for our on-field results.
What things, though? What are the things? I want to know, did he ever get in your ear, I want so-and-so, get me a right fielder? And was it all just during negotiations? Because he's got to know you well enough to know you ain't going to listen to shit after you've signed.
No, that's not accurate. I actually gave him a bigger platform once he did sign because I wanted him to have ownership, quote unquote, in the franchise. So I was far more interested in giving him power once he agreed, even though he only agreed because of the money we gave him, and he had no choice, but he never wanted to be there. He liked Miami, but he didn't like our front office. He didn't like our lack of performance. He wanted to win championships. The irony of which I discuss with him still, is the Yankees, they are better than the Marlins because they make the playoffs every year, but he's got the same number of rings with the Yankees that he had with the Marlins. So you careful what you ask for. But once he signed the contract, and I would go to him before the deadline and talk about players we're looking at moving, players we're not looking at moving. We traded away his really good friend, AJ Ramos, and that was a rough trade for him because he enjoyed being with him. We did not re-sign his best friend, Ricky Nolasco. That was a tough not re-sign when he was just not good anymore. And I would say to Giancarlo, we'll take him, but he wants more money than we're willing to give him, and we can't afford it. So I was very honest with G after the contract was signed.
Very quickly before we get to your review, we had a discussion yesterday about Pete Davidson. Pete Davidson, do you get it?
I love his movies.
Really?
I know exactly what he's doing.
Can you explain it?
He has a plan. So his plan is that he wants to be out from underneath Lorne Michaels, who basically is the rebar in which his career was formed. He now does movies. He dates these high-profile sort of reality stars, whether it's Kardashian, whether it's Ariana Grande, whether it's Kate Beckinsale, all in the name of relevance. And it's totally working because everyone now knows Pete Davidson. Kanye West, for crying out loud, Meatloaf, wrote a song or talked about, I want to punch him out, I'm going to kick his ass. It's so good for him because it keeps his Q rating going. It keeps him on talk shows. It keeps him off his mother's couch in Staten Island. I love you, Pete, for doing it because you're a winner.
Yeah. When I see Pete Davidson, I'm like, that guy has a plan. What's your review for this week?
Your sarcasm. Are you okay, Mike? There's been a lot going on in social media.
No, I'm not. I'm in the middle of. If I can break kayfabe for a moment, I had agreed in principle with Meadowlark on the structure of a deal, and I found out yesterday that 20% of that structure is no longer there. So I'm kind of wearing it a little bit, but I'll keep moving. Moving on. What's your review for the week, David?
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, look, this has been drawn out in the public, and some of it is content, and we're all having fun here. But it kind of stung, and I have to reevaluate some things. So.
Did Dan give you the line? Did he use it?
No.
It's just business. It's nothing personal.
No.
He didn't use the line.
No. Dan and I are good because I'm not negotiating with Dan. I'm negotiating with Bimmel Kapadia, and you can send all your complaints to our CEO, COO, Bimmel Kapadia, who just totally let me down with a 20% reduction.
That's too bad, Mike. Want me to help, or
I mean, you seem to be doing pretty well for yourself.
By the way, I Googled Bimmel's name the other day, and the first result is a video of him shaving Greg Cody's back. So you can use that in negotiations. It may help.
Yeah. But,
I just had to walk out of the room. I can't believe what's happening around here. I just took a call. Somebody wants to come on with you here, Mike. I can't believe what just happened here, the call I took. We'll get to that in a second.
Skipper?
No.
Oh.
No, it's worse than that. But let's finish up with David Samson here because we've got a problem on our hands, a legitimate problem.
I'm going to let you go to your problem then because this sounds very serious. You've got a lot of discontent, Dan, and it's very different when you're sitting in the captain's chair, which you are, versus just being a disgruntled employee, which you used to be. So you're dealing with things you never had to deal with, and I got news for you. I think you are ill-equipped. You are like the LeBron James of Meadowlark. So good luck to all of you.
Thanks, Dave.
The umpires' room, though, it is one of the saddest places on earth, right? They make those poor men. It's the one at I don't know if they're all like this, but the one at Marlins Park is awful.
I resent that. I designed that. What are you talking about?
No,
It's
I'm not talking about in this. I'm sorry. The former Joe Robbie is the one that I'm talking about. The old stadium that you were in.
Oh, that was just that was a football closet.
All right. I mean, that whole place was awful. I mean, it was awful. It's nice now, but it was awful.
Yes, it was awful. See you later,
But now the
David.
team is awful.
See you later, David.
All right, good luck, you guys. It sounds like you got a lot of shit going on.
He's David
I hope
Sampson.
it all works out. On a
Thanks,
scale of
Dave.
1 to 10, you all deserve a raise.
All right. Thank you,
Appreciate that, David.
Thanks.
Thanks, David.
Host of Nothing
Pro
Personal.
labor, David Sampson.
Make sure to follow him at David P. Sampson on Twitter. We'll talk to you next week.
and I'm available to negotiate for all of you guys.
I may look into this because I think I'm being taken for a ride here because I don't have representation.